And these are my career gems on InStyle Atlanta.
First of all, welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It is Merete. I am so excited that you guys are here today. We have a special treat for you, and I just do not think that you guys are ready. We have Miasha Coleman, who is, I'm just going to you're a multi-passionate entrepreneur because I feel like I can't put you in a box.
A good way to put it.
Okay, cool. So first, I always say I like to get my guests to be really comfortable. And one of those ways is I like to start with a lightning round. So I'm going to ask you some questions and then you're going to give me your answer quick, dirt. Like, don't overthink it. It's whatever it stops in your mind. Okay. All right. So, film or books?
Film.
Interesting. Okay. Wasn't ready for that one. Philly or Atlanta, or West Philly or Atlanta?
Atlanta.
A book that you could read over and over and over again.
Coldest winter ever.
Sweet or savory?
Sweet.
Same. Favorite season?
Seasoning?
Season.
Oh, season. Summer.
But now I'm like, well, what is your favorite seasoning?
See, I'm greedy. So when you said that, it took me right to like crab legs and Old Bay.
Yes, Old Bay. Yes, honey. You can't yes. Your celebrity crush?
That's a good one. I don't think I really truly have a celebrity crush. I have a lot of celebrities that I'm inspired by and that motivate me and stuff, but I must play it safe and just say my husband.
Okay. Fair enough. If you could have any superpower, what would it be?
I would like clone me.
Ooh, okay.
I'd be like multiples of me.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be my power.
If you could write with anyone, who would you want to co-write with?
If I could write with anyone, it would be Tiger Williams. He wrote Menace to Society, and that's my favorite movie of all time.
Got it. Okay. That's a good one. Your favorite vacation spot?
My favorite vacation spot would have to be probably Mexico.
Okay. And pen and paper or typing?
Typing.
Perfect. That's it. It wasn't too bad, was it?
That wasn't bad at all.
Okay. Okay, good. Okay. So I want to make sure I'm saying your name right. It's Miasha? No. Miasha. Okay. So Miasha, girl, you have a new movie out on Amazon, and that's called Secret Society. I see it in the background. I love that. You turned your book into a movie. You're originally from West Philly. And I want to start with just like your background. How did we get to where we are now? I know that your background at least talks a lot about you being a writer. And you knew that you wanted to be a writer since you were 9. So let's start from there.
Okay. So yeah, I grew up in West Philadelphia. I'm an 80s baby, and like many of my peers, unfortunately, during that time, a lot of our parents got caught up in the crack epidemic, and my parents were no different. So at that age, I was going through a lot internally, just not having my mom in the picture and just like confused about a lot of things. And I didn't know really how to talk about that stuff or who to even talk to about it. So I just started writing, and I started writing poetry, and it was like a form of escape for me. It allowed me to kind of like get away into like an imaginary land or whatever. And then one day my dad saw one of my poems, and he submitted it to Philadelphia Daily News, and they actually published it. So when I saw my name in print, I was just like so hyped. I was like, this is what I want to do. I want to be a published writer. I felt so good about that moment that that's when I made up my mind that I wanted to be an actual writer. And so I just kind of went throughout school and I would write everything, short stories, scripts, all types of stuff. And I would let my classmates read it and they would be like, girl, hurry up and finish. I need to know what's going to happen next.
Uh-huh.
That gave me an extra boost of confidence. Just like, okay, it's not just that I like writing, but I'm actually good at it.
Mhm.
And so when I went to college, I had it in my mind that I wanted to be a filmmaker and an author. Those were my two career goals. So I took up a bunch of different classes in writing, like anything to do with writing. And it was my idea that I was going to get a career after college, and then once I retired, I would write like my memoir, and then that's would be how I become an author. But as God would have it, the keynote speaker at my college graduation was an author. And when she told her story, it felt like she was talking directly to me. I felt
Yeah.
like, you know what? This is a sign. I need to just go after my original dream of becoming an author and put everything else by the wayside. And so once I left that graduation, I had it in my mind, I'm just going to get a job to pay my bills, but I'm going to write a book. And that's what I did. I wrote Secret Society. I took my laptop to work every day and I would just type a little bit. And at the end of 3 months, I had a finished manuscript.
That's amazing. Congratulations on that. And
Yeah.
so in this same thing, I mean, your journey in the writing industry, I'll say, and I don't know if is that even right? Is it writing or is it more so publishing? It's probably more
Um,
publishing.
Publishing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
So in your journey of publishing, you were, I mean, you were a trailblazer in this regard, right? So I'm curious. I want you to tell us all about just your journey in being a published writer and what that was, because I think there's a lot of people who are passionate about writing and probably have so many different things that they're doing with writing, but I think it's the next piece of like, but how do I get it out there? So I'm curious about your journey.
For me, it was a lot of firsts. I've heard a lot of stories. Even the author who spoke at my graduation, Karen Equinones Miller, when she told her story, she said, she tried to get a deal and no one would sign her. So she self-published and she sold so many books so quick that the publishers came knocking on her door. And she was like, and I ended up with a six-figure deal and now I just sit home and write books. And so I'm like, wow, I can do exactly that. So I anticipated basically taking that road. I thought maybe I should just self-publish first so I would avoid any rejection. I would sell a lot of books, improve myself, and then I would have the publishers come knocking at my door offering me six figures. That was what I put in my mind. So after I wrote the book, I reached back out to Karen Quinones Miller. I emailed her and I let her know that she spoke at my graduation. She inspired me. I wrote a book and I want to do exactly what she did. Please give
Yeah.
me some advice on self publishing. So she advised me to try to get a deal first. She said that self publishing should be my last resort.
Mhm.
So I researched, how to get a publishing deal. And it was then I'm sure it's the same now. You seek out publishers who publish the type of book that you have written. So you don't just go to every publisher and submit, but you submit to the ones that you know are in the business of publishing that type of book. And at that time, Terry Woods was the only publisher that I knew of publishing urban literature.
Mhm.
Um, so I submitted Secret Society to her company. They responded rather quickly, and they said that they loved the book. They were interested in signing me, but they just wanted to know if I had other books, that I had written. So I kind of lied and I said, yeah, I have a few titles, and I wrote a list of titles just off the top of my head, and I emailed them back, and I'm like, these are the books that I have so far. And they were like, "Oh, Diary of a Mistress sounds interesting. I want to read that one." And so I was like, "Well, it's not 100% the way I would want you guys to receive it, but if you give me 3 months," and that was the number that I took to write the first book. I'm like, "Okay, I can surely write a second book in 3 months." I said, "If you give me 3 months, it'll be at 100%." And Terry was going to LA to handle some business. So she said, "Well, I'll give you 7 months because that's how long she was going to be away." So I'm like, "Oh, okay, good." I was up every night, typing Diary of a Mistress while I had an infant son that I was breastfeeding, and I churned it out, and she read it. She loved it just as much as she loved Secret Society. So she felt that I wasn't just like a one hit wonder, and she was ready to go. And she said, "Okay, I'm going to have you come to New York, sign all the paperwork. I want to buy Secret Society outright, and I want to sign you to a 5 book deal." Now, I was tripping out because I'm newly graduated from college, and here I am like at the very edge of my dreams
Yeah.
with a publisher who I looked at as a giant in the urban lit space. So
Hmm.
I'm thinking to myself, like, wow, what's the chances? Like, I wrote a book, well, two, and now I have this deal on the table from someone who I admire so much. Like, this was so bomb to me. But I started to get a little antsy and nervous because I did not know the book business. I didn't know what was a good deal, what was not a good deal. So there I go. I emailed Karen again, and I'm like, I'm back again. I did what you said. I sought out a publishing deal, and I have this offer on the table. Can you give me any advice about this deal? Karen put her phone number in the email and said, call me. I called her. She said, you need an agent. She said, I'm going to put you in touch with my agent. Her agent read both of my books over the weekend, loved them, was like, I want to represent you. So I was scheduled to sign with Terry on a Tuesday. That Monday before, my agent, she had 3 major publishers basically bidding for my books to sign me. So I ended up getting a 6-figure deal with
Come
Simon
on, sis.
Schuster for my first book deal. And I feel like that whole journey, it was God like putting all the steps in place because it was never meant for me to sign with Terry Woods, but it was definitely meant for us to go through that experience because by the time I got my agent, I had so much leverage for her to present to publishers. That's what landed me in that the best case scenario because I had 2 books already written, thanks to Terry, and I had an offer on the table, thanks to Terry. So that was God's way of just giving me that leverage so that when the big guys came along, they could fight over me, and that's what happened.
Congratulations again. That is such a
Thank
great
you.
story. So I have a podcast and it's called Career Gems. And it's essentially for women and women of color, I should say,
Mhm.
who are looking for career advice. So I give career advice for women. And it's essentially a lot about what you're talking about. It's about making sure that women of color are getting paid what we should be getting paid and earned, and also learning how to advocate for ourselves so that we can actually live and be in the career path that we truly want. So I'm curious, in your learning and in your experience, what's some advice that you would give to some of our women who are in very similar situations where they're excited that they have all of this opportunity and then they don't know what to do? Like, do I go forward? Like, what's the best way to advocate for myself to make sure, like what you did, to make sure that you got paid what you earned?
Mhm. The first thing I would say is to trust your instincts. Us as women, we have such a strong intuition, and it doesn't steer us wrong. So for me, if I had have just been, when I felt those feelings of insecurity, over that deal, I could have brushed it off just because I wanted the opportunity so bad.
Hmm.
Um, but I didn't because, like I said, I trust my instincts. I always feel I'm a spiritual person, so I always feel like if God is trying to talk to me, it's going to be through my instinct. And so I take that very seriously. And also, don't be afraid to ask. Don't be afraid to reach out to people. They say a closed mouth doesn't get fed. And listen, my mouth was not closed, and that's why I got fed. So
Hello.
definitely don't be afraid to ask people for help. And then when something doesn't feel right, do your research because even the people that you ask for help could be steering you wrong. So you definitely want to double check. You don't want to just take everybody's word for it. And now with the information that we are having access to these days, it's no excuse. Like we can get answers immediately.
Mhm.
So definitely do your research. Don't just take people's word at face value.
That's perfect. That is so perfect. Thank you so much for that. So I want to transition into secret society, baby. I want to transition to it. First of all, hats off. My God.
Thank
Yes. I'm like, I need to see now that you said that you have the second book. I'm like, wait a minute. I need to make sure I get my hands. You're such an incredible and talented writer. So I'm really excited. Um, so secret society, first of all, how did you, I know it's like it is I'm getting so ahead of myself. Okay. So I know that it is eventually it's your book and then you turned your book into a film. So before we even talk about the film, I do want to talk about where did the idea come from for Secret Society?
So it's twofold. Initially, when I wrote Secret Society, I was just kind of pouring out the mentality that I was around when I was a teenager growing up in the inner city. A lot of girls like myself, we had this idea that the only way we could make it out of our circumstances, out of our hoods, was through men with money. I call it the Cinderella syndrome. A lot of us had that. And so I was writing the book along those lines, just kind of explaining that mentality and the way girls, use guys for money. But I wrote the consequences on the first page. The very first paragraph, you see, there's a man with a gun to a woman's head threatening to kill her. And I'm like, it has to be deep for him to go, to these measures. Um, so the idea that the girls were really, trans, that popped into my head instantly. And when it did, I said, you know what? This is the story that needs to be told. Because at that time, this is like 2003, 2004, no books on the shelf dove into any subject matter like that, especially in the Black community.
Mm-hmm.
It was considered taboo. And
Mm-hmm.
I myself never even had a conversation or even knew a trans person at that point in my life. So I feel like I needed to tell the story. And also, I wanted to make sure I learned about the community and that I represented the community in the proper way. So I actually interviewed a young woman. I dragged my cousin out the house. We drove around to an area in Philadelphia that I knew of for where people of the community hung out at.
Mm-hmm.
And we rode around a few times just to feel comfortable approaching someone. And I approached this young lady. Her name is Kiva, and she was very gracious in giving me information. I told her I'm writing a book, and we talked on the phone for days, and she would just pour into me about her struggles. And that is what changed things for me because the book no longer became just about the glitz and the glamour, the lifestyle and the consequences and things. But it became about, the backstory of these characters, what they go through in a society that,
Mm-hmm.
that we live in and how that shapes who they become. So I wanted that message to be heard loud and clear
Mm-hmm.
overall. And I think that's what made it resonate with so many people from different walks of life because they could relate to the characters in some way, shape, or form. And they also had a deeper understanding for the trans community.
Yeah. Now, one thing I did notice in the film, the actresses that you chose were not trans actors. So I'm
Right.
curious around your decision around that. And then also, was there any backlash? Like, how did the LGBTQIA community feel about kind of that decision as well?
Yeah, so when we casted, for me personally as a writer, I already had in mind what these girls look like, what they sound like, how they move. So when I was looking at audition tapes, I was really just looking for whoever struck out to me as Celeste and Tina.
Hmm.
Um, and then when I saw Erica and I saw Raina's audition, instantly they stuck out to me. But then when they read the lines, it felt so natural, both of them. Their auditions felt that it didn't seem like they were reading from a script at all. it didn't seem like they were acting at all. So that authenticity is what really drove me to picking them. But also on a deeper level, I guess you could say, I really thought about who would see this movie and what was my goal in people seeing this movie. And my goal, just like it was with the book, was to change people's minds, to change people's hearts towards the trans community. It's particularly people who would normally ignore anything to do with the trans community. So I felt like if we cast women who nobody knows, you can't say, oh, well, that's a girl for sure, or that's not a girl for sure. You
Mhm.
know, these are women who are pretty much on under the radar. And the community of people who would never watch a movie like this if they knew up front what it was all about. When they get to the table and they're watching the movie, they're in it thinking it's one thing. Then they get hit with the twist and they're taken aback. They're like, hold up, wait a minute, but they're so hooked at that point, they want to see what's going to happen next. And we get them to the end of the movie. And by the end of the movie, a lot of the people walk away with a different respect for the trans community, a level of compassion for the trans community that they may have not had before watching the movie. And then ultimately, when they see trans women, trans people in general, in real life or on the TV screen or on the movie screen, that level of discomfort or judgment or disgust is
Mhm.
gone. And they're looking at it like, oh, that's cis, because they already have a rapport with Celeste and Tina. So I felt like to me, that was the bigger goal because I feel like that can bridge so many gaps and
Yeah.
heal in ways some of our, our separations.
Yeah.
And I was willing, I knew that there would be some backlash, to make that
Mhm.
decision. And I was willing to, take that risk because, like I said, it was a bigger picture for me. And now that the movie is out and it's top five on Amazon and getting so many rave reviews from everybody, not just people who are not part of the community, but people who are part of the community and everybody in between, I realized that it worked. What I was trying to do, I achieved. So the few people who may have a problem with the casting choices, I feel like once they see the movie, they'll understand what I was doing and they'll get it and they'll know that this wasn't anything malicious. It wasn't anything to, erase them from the equation, but to really allow a lot of people to embrace them. And, once we can have those conversations, I feel like that'll be for the better. And I'm all for what's going to be the biggest impact. So I think they'll get that. And like I said, there's been plenty of people from the community who already understood it and they was like, thank you for telling us.
Yeah. That's awesome. Um, my last question for you is, and this is what something that I noticed too, you produced your own movie as well. So I'm curious about the process of being a first-time filmmaker and also being a producer and putting it on Amazon. Like, come on, sis. Like, yes.
Yeah, that makes me feel so good when you say it back to me. When you're an entrepreneur, you're so used to just doing, making things
Yes.
happen,
Mhm.
solving problems, getting things done, and you don't really take in all that you've done. You don't really sit back and realize, damn, I just did that.
Yes, sit back. Damn, you just like sit back just for a second. Damn,
Yeah,
like you just like your movie is top 5 on Amazon Prime. You've never done a film before.
right.
Your movie is like what? And you produced it for a book that you wrote. Come on, like yes, this bask in that. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, having a dream, I guess, because I've always wanted to do this.
Mhm.
Um, And over the years, I've attempted to do this. I've attempted to make this into a film in 2015. I wrote the script, the first version of the script then. I reached out to people who I knew that were in the industry to kind of get help, guidance, whatever it was. A lot of people told me that the script was too ambitious. It was going to take millions and millions of dollars to shoot it. So that discouraged me.
Mhm.
And 2015 and 2017 again, I tried in the same thing. and I just kind of put it on the back burner. But in 2019, I saw that Jamal Hill, who directed the film, he posted on his Instagram that he wanted to do 4 movies the next year. So I guess that was like his New Year's resolution because this was the end of 2019. And I just shot my shot. I commented that we should do one together. And he reached out to me and said, "What do you have in mind?" I sent him a copy of Secret Society. And he was like, "I got to be a part of this." And so at that point, I had no idea what I was going to do, how it was going to happen. But hearing him say, "Yes, I want to be a part of this," it gave me enough fuel to say, "All right, this is the time to do this movie. I
Mhm.
don't care what anybody says, I don't care what anybody comes back with. I am shooting this movie with or without anybody." And when I made that determining factor in my mind, all the doors open for me. So, as a first time filmmaker, to be able to create something so special, and I don't mean just the fact that it's a film, and I'm going to brag on myself a little bit
Do
because
it.
this movie, like, even if I didn't have anything to do with this movie, I would love this movie. Um, the way it looks, the quality of it, for it to be an independent film that my husband and I used our own money for us to have shot this in 15 days, for us to have shot this during a pandemic. I really feel so proud of the way the film turned out, the quality of it, the level of production, the clothes, the music, the acting, the story, everything just came together like perfectly. And
Mhm.
so I just know that me taking that one step, saying, "You know what, I'm going to do this." Didn't know how, didn't know where my resources were going to come from, but just committing to it with the sheer faith that God would make a way. God said, "I'm gonna show you." And he made a way and a way and another way. And now here I am, like you said, on Amazon Prime top 5 as an independent person, independent distribution, independent all the way through. So I'm just very proud. I'm thankful for my team because I could not have done it without such an amazing, phenomenal cast and crew. I'm thankful for my husband and his support. And then all of the people who are watching, who are spreading the word, who are leaving reviews, and who just enjoy the movie for the work of art that we really, set out to put out is just, it's a blessing and an honor.
It's so great. So, I mean, my last question really is like, what's next for you? How do people find you, and what's next? Because I'm excited.
Secret Society too. I've been getting so much demand for that. Like I feel like I have no choice but to do part two. So that's definitely next. I do have 10 novels, so I feel like I can just keep churning them out. Like I can keep making movies, even TV series. I have plenty of ideas and content, so I really feel like this is a lane I'm going to be in for a while. And everybody can follow me on Instagram, Miasha Official, Miasha Official. Also, Secret Society movie. And make sure if you haven't seen Secret Society yet, check it out on Amazon Prime. Leave a review. Tell a friend to tell a friend. We just want to keep it going. We want to keep the momentum, and we want you all to just enjoy it.
Miasha, thank you so much. I didn't realize you had 10. I need to, I can't, I need more of your books now. Like, I was like, 10, I'm behind. Like, is there a place where we can also get your books as well?
Yeah, Amazon has all
Okay.
of my books. Everything's kind of like ebook nowadays. So yeah, they have everything. Yeah, Secret Society came out in 2006, and at that time I was doing 2 books a year. So I definitely had a lot to say. So yeah, check those out.
Okay. I will definitely. Thank you so much, Miasha. It was such a pleasure meeting you.
Thank you.
You
Have
have
a
a good one. Bye.
bye.
I absolutely hope that you guys have enjoyed today. It has been such a pleasure interviewing Miasha, learning more about her stories, and having her drop all of those career gems. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and make sure you follow our website. Everything is at InStyle Atlanta. And if you haven't downloaded our app, which is on Roku and is on Amazon Fire, which is Watch This, please make sure you do, because this is how you get to see all of our wonderful content. If no one has told you today, I hope you have an awesome day. Bye-bye.